welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, my name is Griselda and welcome to my YouTube family. So in today's video I am going to be showing you how to create this look and also reviewing some of the new Milk products. I got a PR package a few weeks ago and I just decided to throw on this eye makeup look and show you guys how I created this look as well. I'm going to be talking to you guys about the finish, the formulas, and some of my favorites that I fell in love with throughout the video, and some of the products that I probably won't be using again. So yeah, so if you want to see how I get this look, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you get notified every single time I upload. And without further ado, let's get started with this video. Ponytail is way too tight. Alright, so we are gonna get started. I'm gonna start off with this hydrating oil. This is supposed to be a moisturizer, but it comes in a stick form. So I'm just gonna apply that all over my skin. I'm just gonna rub it in just to kind of apply it all over. And this is my first time using these products, so I don't know how they're gonna perform on my skin. As you guys know, I'm not used to using anything that's super oily because I do have oily skin. So I wanna see how this is just going to sit on my skin after applying the foundation. Definitely gives me a like radiant finish to the skin. I'm not 100% sure if it's gonna stay that way after I apply everything else. My next step is going to be using this blur stick. This is a primer, so I'm just gonna apply it like how I would usually apply the primer, and I love how it comes in like a stick form. I'm just gonna apply it in the areas what I would usually apply my primer. I've heard amazing things about this blur stick. I am gonna blend it in with my fingers. The skin definitely feels really prepped. I don't feel like I have anything on my skin. So let's move on to foundation. And I have two foundations here. This is the matte foundation and this is the color tan, and this is the warm medium. This foundation I heard is great for full coverage. It's a super matte foundation and a little bit goes a long way. I'm not sure which is my shade, so I'm just gonna try the warm medium first to see if it matches my skin perfectly. If not, we are gonna add a little bit of the tan shade. This is definitely a little too dark for me. If the warm medium doesn't work out for me, I'm just gonna have to mix. And I'm gonna apply it with a damp beauty blender. I feel like it's a little too light, so I'm going to mix those two together. So we're just gonna apply a little bit more like that, and maybe just like a little bit of the darker shade. So I'm just gonna mix these two together to see if it gives me my perfect shade. Much better. Well, this is definitely some full coverage foundation. So it does say that it dries down to a matte finish, so I'm not gonna set my foundation. I'm just gonna let it sit and see how matte it does get, and if it doesn't get as matte as it says it does, then I'm gonna go ahead and set it. But from what I've heard, that you don't need to set this foundation at all. So far, the color is actually not bad. As far as the coverage is amazing. Definitely is high coverage, and it's very easy to blend out, which I like, because some foundations that are super matte, they do dry down pretty quick, and this one actually isn't drying down as quick. It's allowing me to kind of move it around. So for concealer, I have two shades. This is called the Flex Concealer, and I have fair and medium. I'm gonna try the medium first to see the color. I think this might be my color, just to kind of correct under my eyes. I feel like this is my foundation color, the shade medium. This can potentially be my foundation color. It definitely does cover. It is high in pigment, and I love that it comes in a wand. Just blend that out. It definitely gives you a good amount of coverage. I think I might have to go in with the fair just to kind of brighten up under my eyes just a little bit. but I definitely do like the color. So I am gonna go in with the shade Fair just to kind of brighten up under my eyes just a little bit. So I'm assuming that this is a brighter color, which it totally is. I wish I had just a shade in between the medium and the fair. This one might be a little too light for me. My line looks kind of crooked. And I'm trying not to put too much pressure and just so it doesn't interrupt the other concealer. But it definitely does melt into the skin really nice. Actually, the Fair doesn't look that bad. I thought it would be like way too light, but it's actually not light at all. I'm gonna set my under eyes just a little bit. I usually use my beauty blender to set it. I'm just gonna grab a fluffy brush and just kind of set the inner part of my eye because I don't want it to be super matte. So I don't know how this concealer settles into the skin just yet, so I just want to set it just a little bit. And I actually can see it just interrupting right here with the powder. So maybe I'm not gonna set the rest of my under eye. I'm just gonna set right under here. Next, I'm going to be using this matte bronzer in the shade Blaze. I typically don't like to use anything that's creamy directly onto my skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up with a dual fiber brush that looks like this. This is the LA Girl Cosmetics 104 brush. And I'm just going to pick the product up and then apply it onto my cheeks just because I feel like if I go in directly, it's going to interrupt my foundation, especially because it is a matte foundation. And I'm just kind of twirling it around like this. This might be a little too dark for me, but let's just see how it works out. And typically what I like to do is I like to apply a cream and then kind of set it with a powder. This, I don't know. I think the color might be a little too on the cooler side, but we're just gonna see how it applies to the rest of the skin. Maybe I need to let it warm up. I don't know if you guys can see it. Usually when bronzers are a little bit more on the cooler side on all of these skin tones, they typically turn a little bit more on the grayer side, and that's what I kind of see happening here. So I'm just gonna apply a little bit all over just to kind of even out the skin, and then I'm gonna go in with my powder bronzer and just kind of warm up the skin. I'm just gonna grab my Give Me Sun by MAC and just kind of set that bronzer, and I'm gonna use that same brush and just kind of place it over top. Do you guys see how it's a lot warmer? I feel like I can still see a little bit of gray, but it definitely looks a lot warmer than what it did. And the reason why I'm using a dual fiber brush after applying a cream bronzer is just so I can distribute the powder bronzer in the same places. So for blush, I typically don't like to use any cream products. As I mentioned to you guys before, I'm more on the oily side and I produce a lot of oil around this area. So cream product is definitely just gonna produce more oil for me, but I'm gonna be using this lip and cheek stick. I'm going to give it a try. I'm gonna see how I like it. I'm gonna be using this shade called Rally, and for that I'm also gonna be applying it with a brush. I'm gonna be using the Elcie F8 brush, and I'm just gonna run the brush over the product and just kind of place it on my cheek. And I'm using more of a pressing motion opposed to just kind of buffing it in because I don't want it to interrupt any of the product that I have underneath. Do you guys see how it gives me that like wet look on my cheek? And I typically don't like to do that because it just makes me look really oily. So I'm definitely gonna set the blush. I'm just gonna let it dry down and see how it dries down. If it doesn't dry down, then I'm definitely gonna set it, and if it just kind of gives me like a radiant, I don't know how I feel about the blush. Definitely a little too creamy for my taste. Gonna press in the beauty blender. This is a good trick to know when you are using a cream product. Just kind of press it in with the beauty blender. It definitely helps it settle into the skin opposed to just like letting it sit there. So I waited a little bit and I feel like it's definitely not drying down, so I'm just going to set it with a blush. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of a powdered blush and just kind of set it just so it doesn't look like I have greasy cheeks. Much better. And I feel like these type of products are great for people that have really dry skin because it just kind of brings back moisture into the skin. So we're going to be trying this holographic stick. This is, I'm assuming, a highlighter. We are going to place that. Ooh, this is pretty. It looks very yellowish on camera, but it does have like a hint of like pink, gold, peach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the highlighter with the beauty blender and kind of press it onto my cheekbones just to see how it sets onto my skin. So I'm just going to apply it with a beauty blender and just kind of press it into my skin. I feel like it's giving me more of like a wet look. This is pretty. It's definitely not interrupting any of the product, which I'm kind of shocked, but it is giving me like a wet finish to the skin, which actually I don't mind. And I like applying it with a beauty blender because I feel like I have a little bit more control of the pressure. Okay, so definitely like the holographic stick. I feel like I'm going to just add a little bit of the Artist Couture Illuminati highlighter just to kind of give it a little oomph, you know. So we are just gonna hit that right there. So definitely love the foundation, love the blur stick. I like the combo of the hydrating oil and the foundation. It doesn't fully mattify the foundation down and it gives you like a nice radiant finish to the foundation. Don't know about the matte bronzer and the blush. I definitely loved the holographic stick. This I feel like can be used in so many different ways. A lot of people like that wet finish on the skin. I feel like with this you can totally achieve that look. I just added a little bit of highlight just to kind of like set it just a little bit. As you guys can see, it's still kind of a wet finish like around this area, and I just popped the highlighter just here. So we're gonna move on to the eyes. We are going to prime. Oh, and I forgot to mention, definitely like the concealers. I like the coverage and the finish. I feel like I don't need to set my under eyes. I feel like I can probably use medium as my foundation color, but I would probably just have to like search for my actual concealer shade. So moving on to the eyes, I'm gonna apply my soft ochre all over the eyes. Now we're just gonna set. I'm just using a translucent powder just to set my eyes. And for this look, I'm going to be using the Saharian 2 by Juvia. I've used this palette before and I actually really like it. So I'm going to be using this and also using this Melt Antique eyeshadow. This is going to be my first transition shade, and then we're going to gradually move on to the second and so on and so forth. So we are just going to pick up a fluffy brush. This is a Morphe brush. It's a blending brush. It came in a set, so it doesn't have a number. So we're just going to pick up a little bit of that and just kind of run it through the crease. And it has more of like an orangey undertone, so it kind of goes with the theme that we're going for this look. Not that we have a theme, but you guys know what I mean. And we're just gonna apply a generous amount, as you guys already know. What I am gonna do, because I see some fallout, I'm just gonna put a little bit of translucent powder right underneath. I'm trying not to set my under eyes, but I'm just gonna put a little bit of that translucent powder just to kind of dust off any excess eyeshadow when I am finished. I decided to add another shade from the Melt stacks. This one is Unseen. This is a shade darker than Antique, so I'm just gonna pick that up with a MAC 224 and I'm gonna layer that on top of the first transition shade, and I'm just gradually building that color. Now we're gonna pick up a little bit of this Taza shade, and I'm using that same 224 brush, and I'm just gonna layer that on top. just to kind of deepen up the crease just a little bit. And I'm just going back and forth. So Milk also has these eye pigments, so we're gonna use that as a base. It definitely has like a nice iridescent finish to it. I'm gonna go in with this Sigma Concealer F70 brush. You can actually just use this by itself. So pretty. So now using that same brush, I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this shade called Marrakesh and apply that right on top of the eye pigment. Ooh, that's so pretty. It definitely gave it like a pop of orange, which is the look I was going for. That's why I like to use lighter pigments or lighter bases, just to kind of intensify the lid color that I'm gonna be using. And I usually need to wet the brush, but I feel like the pigment definitely gave it that power to just kind of look really intense. So for eyeliner, I'm gonna be using this Urban Decay Razor Sharp eyeliner in the shade Black. And then we're just gonna create a small wing. And if you want like a full in-depth eyeliner tutorial, I actually just uploaded one a few weeks ago, so I will make sure to link that down below. For mascara, I'm going to be using the Elcie Lashfull mascara. I'm just going to coat my lashes and then pop some falsies. So I'm just going to be applying these Ella lashes by Lilly Lashes. I like them because they kind of like flare out towards the end and they're full all around. Now we're going to use a little bit of this Wonder Pencil in the shade Medium in the waterline. I'm using this lip liner by Morphe in the shade Sweet Tea. These lip liners are so creamy and so easy to glide on. For lipstick, I'm going to be using this L'Oreal lipstick in the shade Hot Sand. We're gonna top it off with this holographic lip gloss by Milk. It's definitely not as glossy as I thought it would be. I definitely like my glosses a little bit glossy, but I like the color and I like the finish. It does give you like a nice holographic twirl when you kind of like move around. Alright everyone, so this is it for this makeup look. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Definitely love some of these new Milk products. I definitely fell in love with the foundation and the concealer. I definitely love how the holographic highlighter looked on the skin. It didn't interrupt any of the products that I had underneath. Also loved the eye pigment. This is so pretty. Definitely can use it by itself. I just was going for a different look, but this is the only pigment that I had from Milk. So I decided just to use it, just to kind of test it out and see how I liked it. But I definitely loved the formula, loved how it performed. As far as everything else, you guys heard my feedback in the video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this look. Don't forget to let me know if you have any other suggestions, what else I should film, any other thoughts, anything like that. I would like to know, and I will see you guys in my next video.